Hey, welcome to another episode of the Local Marketing Beat brought to you by Uberall. I am your host, Christian Hustle, and today we're talking about tracking the offline journey that starts online. It is a pretty cool topic that we're about to discover and really go more in depth into this. To talk about this, we have Chris Todd, Senior Principal of Marketing Operations at CallTrackingMetrics, joining us today. He has well over 15 years of experience in data-informed marketing and built a deep understanding and deep demand generation and customer journey tracking, which we're all about here at Call Tracking Metrics. Chris really helps brands connect the dots between online discovery and offline actions. Chris, welcome to the show. It's great to have you here.
Thank you so much. That was a great intro. It made me feel great. I don't think I wrote any of that, so I really appreciate it. I might put it on LinkedIn.
That's awesome. So, we're very passionate here about getting brands discovered, right, at the local level, whether it's a franchise or a multi-location. At the end of the day, conversions are what drives a business, right? So I'm very excited to hear some of your insights on what you guys are doing, but also what you're seeing in the industry when it comes to tracking those offline conversions, right? Whether it's a phone call or whatnot. So why don't you start there and tell us a little bit more about call tracking metrics? I know a little bit about it. I actually used it many agencies ago, but when I was back as an SEO specialist, it was our way to track something from SEO, right? This was probably like 10 years ago. So why don't you give us a little bit of the background of the company and what problems do you guys solve?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the call tracking industry as a whole has grown a lot probably since the last time you've used it, but the core use case is still where are phone calls coming from? So marketers are spending a ton of money on things like Google Ads. They want to know where phone calls are coming from. They might be tracking form fills already with Google Analytics or HubSpot or something. But oftentimes you're not tracking sort of those sales calls or the demos and things that are happening offline, like you were talking about. So that's really the core use case is when the phone rings, call tracking metrics lets you know where that call came from. We've expanded obviously into things like text and chat, and there's a lot of AI things that we can get into a little bit later. But the SEO use case is a really fun one. I think we'll get
Yeah.
into it a little bit. But using tracking numbers on business profiles, Google's kind of gotten away from a lot of their call reporting that's native. Call tracking metrics offers a lot of that reporting and just figuring out, which of your profiles is making the phone ring if you've got multi-location, which I think a lot of your audience is. So it's, really cool use cases there for sure.
Yeah, and I'm glad to hear that there, obviously it's changed a lot, right? It's been quite some time since I was in there. Are there any particular trends that you have noticed, especially nowadays with the changes in consumer journeys, right now that they can use ChatGPT to find a local provider or a local service in town? Anything that you're noticing in trends on that side of things?
Yeah, so one trend that I really like, and I think we probably should have gotten there sooner as marketers, is adding more quality like measures to all of the leads that are coming in. So what I'm seeing is, previously, like you may have just been saying, 10 phone calls came from my business profile. Now it's, 7 qualified calls came from my business profile, and we're just going to ignore those other 3 or learn from those other 3. I think there's a lot more, like AI has opened up a lot more time to kind of sit down and listen to phone calls, figure out what's going on with them, using the AI to like tag those calls, score those calls for you as they're coming in. Because like with Google Ads and all the platforms moving to their own like machine learning optimizations, you don't want to send junk back to your ad platforms. You want to send only the best stuff so that their AI can find more of that good stuff for you. So I think a lot of people are putting a little bit more guardrails around what they're sending to ad platforms, and really just any of like their reporting platforms. It's a lot more value to like a client for an agency to say, we generated basically 30 qualified leads last month, which maybe they were reporting 50 leads before, but it's really 30 qualified. But that value measure is something that I'm seeing a lot more of our customers start to add on now that there's sort of more tools available to them to do that.
Yeah, that's definitely quite a difference. Whether, I mean, and thinking about it from an agency perspective, but also just as internal marketers, right? Running these brands and running all these locations. Any particular industry that you see heavily? I mean, obviously it comes to mind home services, financial, probably automotive, right? Like anything sales like that. Anything else that can come to mind that we can talk about, maybe a use case?
Yeah, I mean, definitely those ones that you said. One that we see a lot here is like the addiction treatment, behavioral health space.
Yeah.
So when we start talking about them, it's not leads anymore, right? It's human beings that are looking for help. They may be suffering like an actual emergency from like the drugs that they're taking or the alcohol problem that they have. And they need to talk to a human being as fast as possible. So I think this is another area where call tracking has kind of evolved, where call tracking metrics isn't just reporting on the calls coming in and saying like your ads generated this person. It's then how do we actually route to the sales team or the intake team in this situation where they can help them immediately. So a lot of call tracking companies might not sort of have that capability, but we feel like it's really important for the marketers who are trying to reach their audience to then have that endpoint where you were saying conversions are important. Somewhere like addiction treatment, conversions are life or death sometimes. And so
Yeah.
we want to make sure that like the passing of that patient in this situation goes right to the help that they need. So things like IVRs, voice agents, if we don't want to have a missed call in addiction treatment. A missed call in
Right.
home services, very important too. Like we want to cut those down. It's also a good use case. You're going to miss out on a $12,000 roof or something like that. But in the addiction treatment space, it's more of we need to make sure that this person is heard and they get to their help. So cutting down on those missed calls with queues and like VoIP soft phones, and those voice agents that can take those calls for you, even if all of your agents are busy, I think are really important. So that's a cool use case that we've been seeing a lot and a lot of growth over the past like a couple of years too in that space.
That's definitely very interesting. I do remember back in the day, as an SEO specialist talking to home services, whether it's a plumbing or roofing, and we were listening to those recordings, right, so that we could say, "Hey, we got 50 click to calls on your website, but actually those turn out to be 25," right? So we had to manually listen to each call, look at the length of the call. Is there anything better, more efficient way of qualifying these calls nowadays?
Yeah, for sure. So I would still recommend listening to calls. My team always, we listen to a call every Wednesday morning. There's tons of value there to just to listen and be like asking
Yes.
questions among your team, but you can't really listen to hundreds of phone calls. It's not efficient. That probably ate up a lot of your time when you guys were doing that. So yeah, we at Call Tracking Metrics, we have something called Ask AI. It's one of our conversation intelligence features where the AI will basically do that listening for you at scale. So you can still do that manual listen, read through a transcription, listen to a recording, but also just automatically in the background, every single call that you've transcribed can go through that AI process. Ask whatever question you want. Is it qualified? Is it not qualified? Likely to buy? What product were they looking for? If it's addiction treatment, maybe we're talking about insurance, things like that, that you can just tag that call very quickly. And then, even score it off of any of those parameters that we were kind of talking about before a little bit. Was this qualified? Was it not qualified? Did they book a meeting on the call? That kind of thing. So, yes, to answer your
Yeah,
question,
no.
yes.
And I was gonna say, because as you're talking about all these things, is like you're reviewing the calls, obviously paying attention to the details. You're getting content ideas that you can go on the website and create blogs, create, videos, answers, frequently asked questions. So at least that's what we used to do, right? It's like, hey, we're
For
hearing
sure.
the same questions over and over. We should probably add this on the service page or on the wherever, right? Wherever we can. Is that something that you're seeing or hearing that is still a thing? Or I guess, can AI help there as well?
Yeah, that's definitely still a thing. I think where AI helps is frequently asked questions or were in the past pretty much like we heard it a couple times. We think it's probably frequently asked, right? So you were kind of guessing that that trend would continue. So the AI, after it reviews all of your calls, it's like, yes, it was actually frequently asked, and you're not missing any of those maybe related use cases that might have been close to that frequently asked question. There's a little bit less bias, from your team. A lot of times like I'll have an idea of what's happening and I'll look for a call to kind of prove my point. But AI is not
Right.
looking to prove any points. It's just answering the questions you ask it. So yeah, I think we ourselves have used it a little bit for like frequently asked questions. We've used it for sort of like product gap stuff where our prospects are asking questions that maybe our sales reps aren't equipped to handle. So maybe it was not a product gap, but a messaging gap where marketing, my team will be like, here's a one pager for you to answer that next time. Or we pass it off to the product team and say, hey, build this new thing. A lot of people are asking for it. So I think that kind of thing, even with some of our home services clients where they were offering like roof and fence, and they started hearing a lot of things about like landscaping. And they were like, well, let's just get into that because so many people are asking us about it. Sure, let's get into it. So I think there's a lot of just like starting points for conversations just around like strategy for marketing teams, product teams, sales teams. And yeah, the AI just sort of supercharges that. So you're not missing anything that might have been hidden when you were too busy to listen to a call because
Yeah.
you were listening to all of them.
Or you were just simply shifting and making it sound better so it could prove your point, right? Because
That's right. Yeah,
I
yeah.
did do that. I mean, I'm guilty. Probably everybody does that. But
For sure.
what is, if we start talking about these multi locations, say a franchise, right? How can these kind of insights of tracking the offline conversions help or give them maybe business insights, right, for decisions and things like that? Have you heard anything on that side?
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely a lot of cool things that our customers are doing with multi-location. I think like at its core level, just some of the things that you can easily track and kind of get ahead of is if you're trying to advertise in one region and you keep getting calls from on those numbers in a different region, and you got to figure out, okay, what's my targeting problem here? So I think you can really quickly find out when you're listening to those calls, tagging those calls with AI, whatever it is, something we're doing is wrong. We're reaching the wrong people. Is it the platform that we're using? Is it because our business profile wasn't set up correctly? Where did we go wrong? And then diagnose that and dive into like your own internal reporting and things. So I think that's one of the really cool things. The other is just being able to route those things really quickly and accurately. So if you have multi-location that can maybe service giant regions and you want to make sure that when a phone call comes in, it goes to the right office, you can just quickly set up that routing. It's not necessarily the attribution use case. It's more of the routing use case where it's identifying where that number is coming from, sending it right to the queue of people that are ready to answer the calls and answer those questions in the right region. I think that's one of the main selling points for the multi-location. And also just a fun thing for CallTrackingMetrics. All of it's under one account. So you separate things with like sub accounts under an agency like umbrella so that you can kind of roll up what you want to. Like you have a Northwest region, roll all of those up into reporting. If you have a different region, roll those up. And so I think just having reporting that's both separate and also consolidated is super helpful for those multi-location.
Yeah, and I think that specifically for on our side at Overall, on location performance optimization, what we call the LPO framework, one of the pillars is conversion, right? Is really advising our brands to make sure that once a prospect finds them online, that they can quickly and easily interact, right? Or convert or talk to this brand. So you kind of answered my question, right? As like it's helping you branch, is helping you take the person or the prospect to talk to the right department quickly. What would be maybe some best practices on doing that come to mind?
Yeah, I think there's with anything with the phone calls, there's a lot of testing involved. So you're not going to
Hmm.
get it right on day one. So best
Yeah.
practice is always set something up, talk to someone who's done it before, and then test it and make sure it's doing what you want it to do. That's the first thing for sure. I think with multi-location, making sure that you're tracking those conversions, some sort of scoring system, I think is the next step to take, where you're either scoring the quality of the calls that are coming in so that you can send them back, or the quality of the agent performance. So maybe you have sales coaching that you need to do. That's another great thing that you can do with the recordings, the scores, things like that. But I think just taking once you have that quality measure, then you can add that into your GA4 or your looker dashes, whatever you're looking at for reporting, so that you can see like which pages are driving good calls versus bad calls. You can see what CTAs you might need to change because people are just ignoring the calls or you're getting a bunch of unqualifieds from your product page, something like that. I think that's the next step is to then just dive into what are the bad calls, what are the good calls, and what's the difference and the similarities between the two, and then what can you shift.
Yeah, and I mean they're all I think these are all sound really easy to implement, right? Best practices. What comes I don't want to just say the opposite is a mistake, right? But what are the most common mistakes that come to mind? Probably not using call tracking, right? But other than that.
I think the mistake that any marketer makes is that everybody They think that everybody's the same. Their ideal persona is the same person that calls, is the same person that texts, is the same person that submits a form. I think you got to avoid treating them all as the same segment and start thinking about, okay, people have preferences. Let's see where we should optimize for form fills versus where we should optimize for someone just to shoot a text to our team because they're looking for information and not a conversation. I think when you start thinking about everybody as the same audience, and you're like, no, we speak to everybody, then you kind of forget that main just marketing core functionality of no, you have a niche and there's segments within that niche, and you got to figure out why are they submitting a form instead of giving us a call? And is that what they wanted, or is that because that's what we presented? So you got to match your CTAs to your audience. I think like when you forget to do that, and we do a lot, like just across all industries, not multi-location specific. I think that's the thing that is always a misstep.
And it's surprising to me because obviously it varies in the industry, right? Every industry may be different. Some just want to pick up the phone. I want to talk to someone right now, right?
Yes,
Other ones is like, oh, I'm just going to fill out a form, and whenever they get back to me, it's fine. But I've done consulting for automotive brands where they're looking at their how many form submissions did we get, and I'm like, I'm a car guy. I like to buy cars, and I've never in my life ever filled out a form for a car dealership, right? It's like I've never called them either. If I see it, I like it, I show up, right? And how are you going to track me? So obviously, I agree with you, right? Is there's that disconnect that because we put a form on the page, we expect everybody to fill out the form. Well, what happens with those that don't want a form? They would just want to talk to you right now, or they want to text, right? I mean, text support, even from airlines, has been phenomenal, right? As I'm
it's
actually
great.
texting with Delta, changing my flight, and it's great. So, I guess, how do you think AI is going to come into this? I mean, do you see another agent or another type of chatbot that may kind of combine it all, or what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, obviously AI is becoming more and more prevalent. I personally don't think it's going to take over everything. I think just like you were talking about, like people have different tastes. They're going to still want to do different things. Where maybe it starts with a voice AI agent or a text agent that is answering questions as a bot, and then it gets to a certain level, and you escalate and you transfer it off to a human being to finish the conversation or close the sale or whatever it is. I think voice AI agents being really prevalent, especially with like local marketing, local services, where even now Google's adding that thing where AI will basically call the business for you and be like, "Are you open? You're
Yeah, I
open?
saw that.
Cool. Let me tell them." So I think things like that with like local service ads, having a voice AI agent that's just always available to be that answer the phone. So if you get a phone call, someone is going to answer the phone, someone being an AI agent at that point, and then qualifying it, asking questions, maybe booking an appointment through Google Calendar, and then passing it off to the team to follow up on. So I do think that a lot of people will have that preference just to have that sort of flexibility. But I also don't see like forums and text and things going away. I think probably the agents will just be a part of each of those systems at some point.
Yeah, I remember Google was even testing a feature for the consumer side where, if it was like a nail salon or something, you just press a button and in the background makes the call, makes the appointment, and it just sends you the confirmation, which is
That's right.
crazy. Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's cool, right? It's like it's just another way, right? It's just the same as ChatGPT coming in and into the game and saying, "Hey, now you have another way to find local businesses." I mean, I agree with you. I think there's going to be more ways to interact with a brand. Depending on personality and what you prefer, I don't think it's just gonna replace them all either.
Yeah, I don't think businesses should make the choice for their audience, right? I think you should obviously not have like 19 different ways to contact you on one page, but kind of test out what's going to be working for your audience, and also not assuming it's going to stay the same for longer than 6 months to a year. So I think you always have to be kind of testing those CTAs and figuring out, well, is the audience still feeling this way, and then asking them too. Obviously, if you've got surveys and focus groups and things like that that are on your team. Yeah, it's a good way to do it.
So if we had to wrap this episode up and say, "Hey, what is the one key takeaway?" I'm gonna try to see if I could guess your answer, but would that be testing?
It could be testing. I think the
Okay.
first one would be like sign up for CallTrackingMetrics. The second one
Yeah,
would be
of course.
testing. No, I think the main takeaway for me is yes, testing, but also that quality measure. So however you want to get to it, Yeah, there's no reason to make like decisions based on bad data. So with whatever data you have available, just know it's part of the picture. So I like that you said data informed in my intro. A lot of people say like basically like data made decisions or data backed decisions. I like informed because you don't want the data to like force your hand. You want it to tell the story of what you should look into and start talking through. So I think having that data as part of your strategy, which means testing, which means adding more layers of quality, things like that. That's the big takeaway for me.
That's awesome. Well, Chris, I really want to thank you for making the time to join us today. I think you gave us some really valuable insights when it comes to, farther than call tracking. I don't want to say call tracking, but more of that offline conversion tracking, right? Where it's the quality is not just a numbers game anymore. It's not just like you said, right? It's more informed decisions based on insights that you can collect from tools like call tracking metrics and or whatever any other tool that you may be using, right? Or whether you're actually just working on visibility right now on the overall platform.
Absolutely.
But again, thank you so much for jumping in on here. How can people connect with you or follow you or maybe reach out?
Yeah. I mean, thanks for having me. This was a blast. I mean, you can find me on pretty much any social channel at I am Chris Todd. LinkedIn is Chris Todd, probably 09 is on the URL, but you should be able to find me through CallTrackingMetrics and CallTrackingMetrics.com.
Awesome. And thanks so much, everybody, for watching, making it this far into the video. If you want to check out the Uberall Academy, just visit academy.uberall.com and get certified on LPO and among many other courses out there that are completely free. You can sign up today. All right. With that, I'll see you on the next episode. Bye bye.